Hello and welcome back. Sorry for the technical difficulties that came to us without any notice. We are back with Ashmina and Sheelasha on a different platform, but the same location you can find us. I think I can give you 10 seconds or 20 seconds, Sheelasha and Ashmina, to share it for your friends on your Facebook pages. So they can find you very easily. And on my Facebook page, on Sadya Mizan's Facebook page, you can find us again. So,
are you live now?
Yes, we are.
I'm trying to find in your page, but yeah.
Right.
Okay. Here we are.
Yeah, we have. Sheelasha,
sure.
you done? Okay.
Sure.
Just for our friends who were watching us and dropping the lovely comments, for you all, you can go to Ashmina Ranjit on Facebook, Sheelasha Rajbhandari, and Sadya Mizan. Any of the pages you go, you will find this live. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I'm coming back to Sheelasha. We were talking about the support that you get when you have someone like Ashmina in the local scene, and also why consciously it was a decision for you to, study locally and work, and then you could also go outside and expand your work anyway. So that is something you were sharing. And then we had this technical crash on us. But tell us about what influences your work, Sheelasha, as you have been more rooting and focusing on the local scene. And of course, there is a lot of context that was questionable for you. And from there, you shaped up your practice. So what actually influences, what are the, significant things that influences or reflects in your work?
A lot of time, lot of the institutions, a lot of the systems which are meant to nurture you, educate you, or help you, also end up creating this division in a way. Maybe a lot of time it's intentional also. A lot of time it's not because of that particular institution, but because of the entire system itself, like how society is built, how nation is built, and what value system that nation country, what kind of history it had. So that is very sort of crucial on the objectives of those sort of structures, and then it kind of becomes problematic also in a way, particularly while we talk about art in the context of a lot of First Nations, a lot of indigenous community, a lot of colonized spaces. There are certain sort of image making culture we idealize, while the entire other thing are sort of categorized or in a very degradatory terms, are just are not intellectually important. And similarly, the system, same time, there are certain gender, like the males are particularly seen more importantly, and then females, because there is this very problematic history of free labor and all this thing. And then whatever you do, you're not capable enough. And then you have to constantly prove yourself, your existence, a very basic thing like that. And then a lot of things.
And would you like to say a little bit more when you say colonized history or colonized things in Nepal, as it was not the colony? So would you like to give us some information about that?
I mean, there is a very popular romantic view of how Nepal is not colonized. And then that is something we were taught in our textbook with a lot of pride. And this sense of pride is overwhelmingly present there, that we were never colonized. But colonization can be seen in a different perspectives. for a lot of indigenous community, the Shaha King, who like he is seen as a colonizer, and then in his birthday, the indigenous community celebrate it as a Black Day. Um, Approaches it as a Black Day, but also through European, like this East India Company lens.
So the
on
colonizing history is also colonized by
yeah,
European history.
like but through a very basic sort of this East India Company view, like lens also. So there are a lot of instances when the government of Nepal back then had signed a lot of contract where we had to either sort of we exported like manpower, which is still continue in the form of Gurkhas, or there are a lot of treaties where we had to pay stuff. I mean, there's like constant battle where this the what is the map of Nepal now has changed constantly, and even now recently actually we recently sort of again changed our map officially. So it's like a constant thing, and then talk about cultural perspectives, talk about language, talk about it's there.
But
Basically, if I have to add on this, like
please do.
short, like we are not colonized by the outsider, as per se. We celebrate saying that, like Nepal is never colonized, but we are colonized by our own people. As Sheelasha addressed, Sahas, Ranas, Brahmins, like how these have been colonized, and also religion wise, so in different layers, how it is colonized, how we were colonized, and how we are battling against that or resisting on that is somehow that's the battle we are talking about. And I am the panchayat baby, where when there is one language, one religion, one dress code, everything, like how every other cultural context and otherwise it is suppressed. And to be a Nepali, you have to speak Nepali, you have to be how it is kind of contextualized, and how it is suppressed. So it is within the within the country. And if we look at how the commercialization of things, how it is colonizing the whole world in certain way, and Nepal is in the same way we are colonized. And so the battle is when it is the one of the good, one of the thing I always say, like if as in India or Bangladesh, as the whole
Indian subcontinent,
how British actually colonized, and you all were able to like kick them out, for good. And but when we are battling with our own people, they also belong here. You can't kick them out. So the coexistence, how to bring that coexistence is very important. And the suppressor never wants to give that power to the oppressor, so that battle is much more complicated, much more brutal.
difficult,
In that sense. So
but also it was only in 1923 that British actually gave an official acknowledgement that Nepal is an independent country, and we had a British resident which almost worked like kind of worked like an embassy, and so through that perspective also.
Thank you, both of you, for putting light on this, much needed information that we rarely talk about, I guess. I'm sure many people didn't actually knew about this information and this struggle that is actually a living present for many, like all in Nepal.
And also, when we talk about colonization, like the first thing it comes to come to the mind that, like, okay, outsider comes and colonized, but how we colonized within the caste system, within the religious manner, there are so many other ways how one colonized the other,
Exactly.
and that's why the Brahminical, this patriarchy, how it is trying to colonize, from the gender perspective to any other perspective. So it's kind of really, really complicated, and it's really brutal, and it's really, I even don't know the word, like how to really, explain it, but it's not really okay. We can kick them out and can be free. It's not easy as
it's the choice is not that easy in that case.
Not at all.
Thank you for explaining this so much. I'm coming back to Sheelasha's words that you were sharing about the patriotic society and the issues or realities that comes in your work. So would you like to share about one of your work where we can start looking at how these issues are coming into art? What are the forms of aesthetical expressions that can address these realities in society? Where should I start with? Any work, you just name it and I'll put it on screen.
We can start from I still see the same old house in my dreams.
Okay, just give me 1 second.
I mean, it's about like how almost trying to sort of like demystify and de-objectify a woman, and then not see history like of woman, but through woman. I mean, there's a huge difference in that. And then in our societies, how our value is still very much attached with our counterpart or father or grandfather, and how our the entire family lineage is very patrilinear. And then when you talk about family tree or taking national citizenship, you have to have your father or a husband, and females in your family just disappear, and especially after marriage, they have to change your surname, caste, and then house itself, and the stories of your mothers and grandmothers just disappear. So it's these series are trying to reclaim those intangible existence. And so we can move on to another slide.
Yes.
So this is one of the first work from the series where I spent time with my grandmother and trying to understand history through her perspective. And also very interestingly, how same incident it has a different impact, or same festival or same time period have a different impact to males or females. For example, how the memories of festivals for females, it's always about spending time in kitchen and making food and impressing the guest. But for males, like going outside and having fun, things like that. And it's also about interrelationship of a city where I was born. My grandmother is born, which is Kathmandu, which happens to be one of the most important. Was one of the most important hub in the trade route of Tibetan India, and it was one of the ancient settlement in the entire Himalayan region itself, and has a very layers of history of like merchants, traders, religious preachers, philosophers, a lot of people coming and going and sharing things here and taking things from here. But then, if we cut down those patrilineal chronological perspective, then I wanted to explore what is there. And also, if we see the ancient history of Kathmandu, it's actually protected by we call them aljimas, which is
grandmoms,
other grandmother goddesses. So protector grandmother goddesses who live in the periphery of the cities and embedded in the landscape itself. So this idea of the female body, the landscape itself as a female body, and then comparing that to the house, which is also a very, very spiritual space. It's not just brick and wood, it's a very spiritual space. It's almost like this embodiment of a grandmother themselves, and then my grandmother herself. So there's different layers in it, and these are recreation of like the material recreation of her memories, and then her and the oral histories I had with her. And down there are some photos from my family archive, and the stories she told, I also wrote it down. And some of
and I want to ask, the framing is like very beautifully done. Is it like there must be some connection to this?
It's a very typical frame. Even till the 90s, it was very popular. So it's a silver mount in a wooden frame, and is very typical nostalgic feeling in that. So everybody generally had it, especially they used to get it in the weddings or special days, like coming of age.
Yeah, and you're saying something about the photographs also.
Yeah, so these are from my from my family archives, and some of them, like few of them, from outside of my family archive as well. And then I sort of matched the narratives, memories, oral histories, which was passed down to my grandmother from her grandmother, and then it goes on. So all this generational knowledge and intellectuality, and there are stories of how they also resisted in their own ways. So they were not necessarily going out on the street and protesting, but then it was so amazing how they sort of build their own systems of resistance, build their own so that they couldn't afford to burn out. So they were like, each and every single day is a fight, and it was never it was never valued within, at least within my family also, let it be in the larger society. So all these hidden stories are just like there, and it is not valued in a similar way how other works like the free labors are not valued. And history, all these sort of histories of resistance are also sort of not acknowledged in a way. So I intentionally very consciously wanted to acknowledge that. But at the same time, it was also giving a larger picture of a history of her generation. So she's talking about her, but also her fellow females, her grandmother and her grandmother and grandmother. And then
how challenging how challenging was this for you to get these narratives? Like, I personally also work with oral narratives, and sometimes it's very difficult to get the narratives from the women. They not necessarily, feel comfortable always or talk about this. How was your experience in that terms?
It was extremely challenging. I must say, and it was extra challenging because while I was doing this, my grandmother got diagnosed with blood cancer in her last stage, and it was very difficult in that sense also. But also, it was a discovery, a collective discovery for both of us, because first of all, we didn't talk about this. Like I spent my entire life with her, and it was only before she died that she shared all the stories, and because she thought it was not important. I mean, she talked about all the men in the,
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, men in the family, men in the community, and their bravery, all the masculinity, but that she never thought it was important. Like a lot of women, they don't have like
Exactly. Yeah.
time for self-care. And you know, I'm glad that this generation of women are like reclaiming that very subtle sort of areas also.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it's very difficult even to sort of reclaim that.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, how that psychologically like stays back, and then you have to again, dig out the layers to work. That's why I was thinking how difficult it can be. Also, the narratives are there, the people are there, but still, it can be very difficult to dig out those. Would you like to show more works from the same series? I can see another series there, like this one.
Yeah, so this one is from the same series, and so this is particularly about like again, you can do a little bit down another
Oh,
slide.
a little bit down.
Yeah, yeah. No, the three shawls.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So
This
this is
one.
the shawl, which is very similar to my the one my grandmother worn, and then I was sort of exploring on how, because these things are not verbal, then how else are these transmitted? And then I realized like garments and textile is one of the things that daughters inherit from their mothers and grandmother, and it has so much of history in it,
True.
so much of pain in it, so much of like struggles in it. And then so I wanted it like to be part of it, and but I didn't want to use the original one, of course, but then I got exactly the same my grandmother wore. And this is the story of stories of resistance from three generations of so first one is my grandmother's grandmother,
Mm-hmm.
and then second one is my grandmother's mother, and then third one is my grandmother's story.
Uh-huh.
And then all of these like they're talking about like how um uh, I mean yeah, all these struggles, but at the same time they were not alone. They
Mm-hmm.
got support from the society as well, but also and among all the hatred and all the struggle, they also somehow got I mean some of the supports as well. So and I also wanted to like do embroidery. So it's
Uh-huh.
a very sort of slow process of acknowledging it and taking it, soaking it in. Um, yeah.
Kind of getting lost. But I will also come back to this point that I could see in many of your works, embroidery is a prominent thing most of the time, and the textile. So I'd like to come back to that. Let's go to Ashmina. Ashmina, let's talk about your work and what your work is reflecting. Of course, in whatever we have talked so far, we understand your interest, of course, but let us know what you reflect in your works and how.
Yeah, maybe you can quickly show some of the image what you have from book,
Yeah.
Silence No Longer. Then maybe I'll choose like two works. I mean, I do really different, manner in the sense, media wise, and then conceptually and otherwise. So I'll just choose maybe two works, then we can talk about. If you just quickly show them, like one of the work, I mean, you can just scroll that and just show that so that the audience, whoever looking at, they can just quickly grasp or like have a quick scan about the just view, and then I can just talk about. So I'll talk about maybe two works from one is kind of larger political context when the insurgency, I mean, we gone through the insurgency, 10 years of Maoist insurgency, and we are still in the battle in different ways. One of those, and one of the thing is from the gender perspective. So as we talk about colonizations and then the Brahminical patriarchal view and how women's sexuality within that Brahminical patriarchal view, how women's sexuality is under the control of the men or the patriarchal perspective. Yeah. So I just thought on that perspective, like when women, just one simple thing, how women's body and sexuality is controlled. As soon as you were born, just because you are born with the vagina, how they kind of totally dismissed in the larger context to even accept as she is as equal as he, it never took that way. So in that sense, to control that, menstruation is one of the most beautiful thing that happens in women's life, and that's how we were able to recreate the another being, so I see that as a celebratory factor rather than suppressing part. And so in that Brahminical patriarchal viewpoint, how the whole structural problem is to powerful one to stay in power, the other people, they had to make it powerless. So in that context, the power of feminine force, women, or the this natural phenomenon itself is taken as the impure, like in Brahminical patriarchy, how purity or the purity of the blood itself is how important within the caste and within the gender, how they discriminated, So these are some of the work. I did quite a series of work, year after year on the menstruation itself. This is one of the work that is I did in 2002. This is in India. Then other, you might scroll down or up somewhere, about the menstruation we should be celebrating. So I did like paintings, print installations, and performance in so many ways to bring that forth, saying we should be celebrating, and how we resist the violence. It's in that context. So this is one of the installation. I did this in 2002, this particular, what you are seeing now. So it's the womb room. Actually, you created this space where men or both audience has to go into it as you are entering into body itself, and then you experience the internal part, then you come out of it. So it's kind of really onto your face. The beauty of it, of course there is a pain as well, women goes through and all these things, but regardless of whatever it is, we should be celebrating it rather than. And also in Hinduism, we worship the goddesses, all these goddesses, where when it comes to reality, how the women are treated, it's all these context. I'm questioning on that and then trying to bring it. So in short, I'm just this is about, and then we can go to one of the other work about the performances during the
or I'm just randomly putting the images for you, so you can start. I think about the political positioning I should show something.
So as I told you before, like we were not supposed to talk about politics, that's how we artists were. And also I really wonder, how the state used to stay as they were in the power, how they kind of glorify themselves, how they use the artist in previously, and then how we are trying to kind of using art to question about that same power. So it's a really different context. So maybe I'll talk about this one work. This is the Thomas the Darkness. I did it when our king coup the country, and on the name of democracy, and then the king 2005 February 1, and so king actually coup the country, and he was saying on the name of democracy, and he cut all the means of communication, and everything was kind of censored. And I was looking at the whole context of how we were brought up, and how the rulers wanted us to kind of bring up as a subject, not as a citizen, So that is one of the case. And also I was looking at when we were kid, and I think still, we were taught about the cow, how important cow is. So, from the birth, even after the death, the cow is so important, and we worship cow as a Lakshmi goddess, and also cow is our national animal. And also we were taught in every grade how important is cow, and we are supposed to write an essay from grade 1 to grade 10. And then also I was looking at, like, when we do something, we do something good according to traditionally or conventionally, especially women, when they don't ask question or just be docile and doing whatever their duty, then usually they say, oh, you are such a beautiful person, and they kind of pat on you as like, you are like a cow. What a wonderful, cow. And that was compliment is given, still. And I always kind of really annoyed with that tone or the way the compliment is given. And so,
are you like, holy cow, what that is?
Yeah, and we were raised to be like a cow. docile, women in one perspective, but at the same time, within the whole country, they wanted subject to be like cow. They never question, just be, whatever ruler you wanted to be. So the performance was first done the video piece, myself tangling in the chain, and then created the video, and that video was projected while I was doing the performance in front of audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I rewrote the text from the grade 6, I think, and I was reading that, and also kind of made it in the politically kind of questioning the status of cow, and metaphorically how women and also as a citizen at that time. So that was one of the things, and I showed that recreated that performance in different places, different thing. So that is one, and then there are multiple other performances I have done.
I'll put another image so you can share about this too.
Yeah,
very quickly. Let's talk about this one.
Yeah, this is also like it is, I think, 2008 when we were in this rebelling, doing demonstrations, like we wanted king to be out, so we are trying to push him out of his power. But most of the time people were saying, oh, king should give up his power to the people. And then people, it's kind of like begging kind of situation, and my whole point is your right is your right. Nobody can say, I'm giving to you. As now, if we have conversation, most of the time people say, oh, I have given the power to her, or I let her do something, in the gender perspective, like when man and women conversing, I'm letting you do whatever you want, I'm kind of, it's like as I hold the right, or as I hold the power. So it's kind of like that. And that same goes with the authority, the king to the subject, so king to the citizen. That's how. So this performance I created really long dress, as you can see, as long as the temple. And then I was sitting on the top, and I gave scissors to the people, whoever passing through, so they can cut the piece as their right, and they can walk away. And as they cut the down part, then I come down, slowly, gradually. And then towards the end, they took everything out, and I became on the same level as everyone. So it's kind of really working on that sense. So and after that, this performance was, I can't remember the month, but 2008. And after some time, we had we were able to throw him out. Now we are a Republican, of course, but we are still questioning on, are we truly Republican yet?
The question remains.
Yeah. The ongoing battle is still there. Now another revolution is definitely needed. We threw out the king, monarchy, but there are multiple kings now, or multiple
the battle is always there.
Yeah, it's even if you see, it's getting the worst before it gets, it's like I guess. Yeah,
true. Let's come back to Sheelasha again. I guess we obviously have a lot of context to share and discuss around colonization, power play, and the social positioning and suppression. So can we look at your work from, again, starting from your grandmother's shawl? I think we can talk about this work. I'll show you quickly. this one. You can see it, Sheelasha?
Yeah, so and before it to connect it with what Ashmina these thing, can we go to the work below this? No, below.
Below the decolonization or this one?
Yeah, I mean, this work is about the power play, and then this connects the contemporary geopolitical situation in through Nepal's perspective, because like what's Nepal is now is between what is India now and what is China now, and then which puts Nepal in a very interesting position, because we also do not have sea, so we are a mountainous country, and then because these two countries are again like becoming like superpowers in the world itself, but also are rival to each other, and of course they want to like increase their influence and increase their allies, and same as Bangladesh, like how our political like we have shift in Nepal, and we're like more aligned to India, and now we're becoming more and more aligned to China. And we have like our government have their own respective reasons, but it's really interesting, like when you are in a like physically small country within this like physically very giant countries, and then I take references from different time periods, and I like to take references from folklores and legends and all these oral histories and all these things, and then I draw a comprehensive like narrative in a way, but not, but also it is a very like a like a it's a conscious like jumble up also, and then here I'm taking a reference. Yeah, here I'm taking a reference of 7th century literary period coin, because during that time there was a lot of like official trade going on, and like official marriages happening between King of Tibet and King of and like Princess of Nepal, and there are also stories of like the traders going to Tibet via like India and Tibet, and then the horse actually is also from the coin, but at the same time, it's also from a story where a trader leads 500. He's like one of the earliest trader who leads 500 traders to India. Sorry, in Tibet. And mind it, it's a very risky trade. It is one of the like most risky because of the altitude, because of the very like it's all mountain. And then he goes there, and then he like is very successful in doing the trade, but then he gets like caught up with the demoness and like things like that. But then the Avalokiteshvara, where he comes in the form of a horse and like rescue. But then it was only the main trader who could only survive. But the irony is here I made intentionally like two heads, and then you can see the horse is on the rail track, and that track signifies the recent like hot topic of building the train, like bringing the train from Lhasa, but also from Delhi. So there's like a competition between China and India in a way. What Nepal's think, it's not like actually happening, but then there are a lot of rumors that there is this, everybody wants to bring in train over here. And this almost this false alarm in a way. And then it's like really like it's out there in the news and everything. If you do Google, it's like out there everywhere about the train. And then the landscape is a contemporary landscape of Lhasa on the top, Kathmandu in the middle, and Delhi in the south, because that's how we see the landscape, like up, middle, and down. And then this is the same story again, which connects where my the trade where it's happening, Kathmandu. It's the same city where my grandmother was born, and then it's like a loop again. So we go back to the same story up then, and how she sees the whole story from her perspective. So yeah, that's a loop. And if we go up on the shawls,
Yeah.
so this is the continuation of the trade now happening and the globalization. And if we see the global market of textiles, it's really interesting how the manufacturing of the textile has shifted to Asian countries, and especially to China, India, Bangladesh, and a very tiny percent in Nepal. And but what is being manufactured is again very interesting. Is all these bigger brands and all this politics behind it, and whose labor is put on there is mostly women. And then these skills which was nourished in every household in a way, but not active, but was there, like it was almost omnipresent, which was by women. And then how it has shifted with the industrialization. And so I wanted to sort of map out that through five generation of my representation from my own family, um, and um, and how the textile culture also has shifted. So you can see there, the first photo is of my great great grandmother, and she's wearing Dambar Kumari shawl. And then shawl, that the history of shawl is also very interesting because it's like from India's Banaras, the block printing was um, like one of our princess was inspired, not princess, like prime minister's daughter, but was like princess. His name was Dambar Kumari, was like very like fascinated by the block printing in Banaras, but it was back then like around what is now Bangladesh. Also, the muslin, it was basically done in muslin, and so she brought it back in Nepal. But because Nepal was a little bit, the story says so, that because Nepal is a little bit older, she put two layers of translucent muslins, and then and so the textiles pattern could be seen also from outside. So this is how this material history and material culture was circulated within the region. And then I sort of traced it in my grandmother's period. So we had a little bit of nylon coming in from China, but mostly from India. It's like very like industrially manufactured. But if you come in my generation, then it's all this counterfeited product. And it's actually, I collected it from more than 100 people who were actually wearing it. So it's like a living history. And then I collected it, then it's all like tag, and I could hardly find made in Nepal product. If it was made in Nepal, also it was like it had to emit some sort of bigger brand. What kind of world? It's interesting. Reflect how textile reflects our lifestyle and our world views also. Uh, and how quickly, because till my mother's generation also it hadn't changed a lot, and how quickly that generational knowledge has shifted, and how we're losing it, but how also we're gaining this another form of knowledge in a way. But it's very, the time period is very short. And why and how it's happening and what is influencing us is also important.
Sure.
What kind of tags are important, or how our psychology is influenced, how even social media, things like that, those
a lot of aspects to it.
importance. And then want to trace it through the textile.
Great. Beautiful work. So after that long history, I'd come back again to Ashmina to know about some other history that you created, of course, other than your work. So tell us about Rasana and Nexus that you initiated, and a short history about them.
Thank you. So when I came back from Australia, and before I went to, in Nepal, we used to have workshops, art workshops. And whenever still the same practice is going on, except among some of the very young generation, how we are, working on. It's a little bit different, but the practice is still the same. Like when they do workshop, they kind of invite 10, 15, 20 artists together, and they distribute one canvas each, and they paint, and they paint whatever they have been doing for however long. And then they would be painting the same thing, whatever they have been painting for.
In their previous lives.
Something like that. And it might be, occasion might be king's birthday, occasion might be someone's death, occasion might be some celebrity in whatever way, but it would be the same thing, And I used to really wonder about that. And kind of whenever that kind of workshop I participated, I did whatever, something different I tried. And then I was really inspired by one of the workshop I participated in Australia. It is not from the art school like thing, but it is more like basket making workshop. And it kind of changed the whole dynamics of what it means to be in workshop, And also it's very egalitarian, kind of like no one is higher or lower, but it's more like everyone is in the same page, Someone who knows trying to teach, someone who doesn't know trying to learn, and there is no hierarchy, and it's openness. It kind of really
learning from each other.
It's horizontal level, It's really nice kind of environment. And then when I came back, the definition of art is still painting and sculpture is art, nothing else is art. And also how the workshop, when artists meet, it's not like stimulating kind of conversation, how to inspire each other. Rather, it's random, some kind of talk, which is necessary as well, And then I was trying to somehow I felt like now history needs to be go into some different direction. That was really necessary. So how to bring art from outside of the canvas and experiment is one of the thing. So really try to work on that. And then I brought the people together who was then kind of seems out of the box a little bit. So I kind of try to bring it together, and then we form the Sutra Art Center, which is kind of alternative art space then. And so we kind of were able to change the course of history in that sense. What art before then and then after that. So that was one of the case. And then in between, it kind of really brought the whole scenario is different, how people started looking at really the definition, the way of looking at things had changed then. And then I went to US. And when I came back from US, somehow the experimentation, how Sutra was trying to thrive, what
make changes.
Reason was, somehow derailed in the sense, like people started making joke out of it. Like I do the installation, okay, whatever that, without the conceptual depth, without the pictures, without kind of thing, So it's kind of really, I was looking at that, and I just felt like, oh my God, what's going on here? So then I felt like it is really important to bring the conceptual art, like conceptually driven, how to really do that,
a
and
strong
also
conceptual base.
Conceptual base, and also critically, it's very important to look at the theoretical perspective, a theory, critical analyze, and then really try to bring the different way, and also establish the artivism. And then so Lasana was founded on that basis, like it's an artivist organization,
And how many of you were when it was formed?
7, and they are from different field, and also notion of art and also notion of artist has to change, because this is visual artists, these are the painters, these are the sculptor, these are like, they are all compartmentalized. So my point and also my practice has been very different, so I started as a painter, but painting didn't give me enough space to express what I wanted to express. So I kind of started exploring, and I went beyond that. And if you look at me now, I have no medium, and also when I curate, it's not only thing I curate, I create no things in certain ways, so it's really different. So it has to be open up, and it has to go beyond the compartments, so the artivism, and also we brought journalists, writers, anthropologists, sociologists, to music, to all kind of thing, whatever whoever have expressed. Medium could be anything. That's how it's really started. Then artivism really kind of really from 2007, if we look at now, people are really taking it in. Still people, some of the people have opposition to it, they think, oh, political art, it has nothing to do it, it's not art, people, that kind of conversation
that stream will be always there.
That's good to happen, that. And then at one point, Lasana is the conceptual space we are talking about. It's not the physical space. It can happen, art workshops, talks, all these things. And also we started the conversation, art talk, and artists used to say, we are artists, why do we need to talk about? We don't need to talk about art, so art talk was really kind of rejected by so many established artist groups, artist fraternity. But now we can see how important it is, So there are so many different practices.
Then how did Nexus came into the scene?
Yeah, so it's Lasana is more conceptual, space, and then at one point we realized we really need to have the physical hub, physical space. So it's kind of the Nexus is the project of Lasana in a way, physical cultural hub. It's kind of like the concept, whatever Lasana has, it's actualized in Nexus as
so Lasana didn't have their own physical space.
No. Right. I mean, sometimes we have some spaces, office spaces,
but not their own,
but not really like that. So Nexus, that's how came into existence, and then we brought many creative minds together, about 20 plus members who became part of it. And then contributed in different ways. And you know about Nexus, you know, how we created that cultural hub, and how that platform, physical platform, became one of the most important platform to bridge between the different genres, and also bring people. And it's not only local, but also globally. So how we're able to create that platform, and also that became one of the safest space where anyone can come, feel this is my space.
That's a very important note that you share, actually. There is a very much need of a safe place for artists. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. And also, before we created the Nexus, there are hardly spaces, you know, if sometimes you wanted to go and have conversation and be there kind of thing. If we go to restaurant or cafes or some places, you know, I mean, until you are having a cup of tea, waiters really, you know, give you that look like, okay, you are welcome. But as soon as you finish a cup of thing, then they try to push you back in certain way. So Nexus is the place where people can have that sense of kind of thing. That's how we created. And within like last 5 years, it has done so many different, you know, programs, from talk, conversation, workshops, I mean varieties of things. And also I see Nexus as an art project in the larger context, you know. And so many people, again, I'm just trying to like say how people look at Nexus from the other's perspective. And they were saying, oh, Ashmina is no longer artist now because she is running a cafe and she's running a hotel. But Nexus is not a hotel, it's an art project. As I say, I mean, when I do curate, it's no things, you know, not nothing, but no things. It's creating no things, and how bringing things together.
What can be a thing
within the thing, you know, like bringing together and curating and creating that space. And
collaboration, interesting perspectives into one space.
It's very, very interesting. And also one of the things, when we were trying to, now collaboration became one of the most important thing in the contemporary art context, you know. Before it used to be individual, so much individualistic. And in a way, previously, if we look at the traditional art practitioner, there is no individualism in the context of, if we look at our, you know, history. And in Western perspective, we are so influenced with that. As we said, you know, then individualism became so much important. And the whole context of kind of reclaiming that communal space, community, and the collaboration. So when I started like bringing artists together, collaborating, some of the artists who actually now enjoy collaborating, they kind of were really pointing me out, you wanted someone to work in your idea, that's why it's a free labor, you know, you are bringing it. And I was trying to really establish the collaboration, how important it is in the democratic practice. Unless we collaborate, unless we kind of gel together, coexistence, we kind of really respect the coexistence.
That's the core word, coexisting.
You know, it's a so important part of it. And now, you know, within the individual and within the organization and within and beyond that, we are practicing that. So that's how it's kind of one after that. And in between that, I also, with the several of other artists, thinkers, writers, we created a gallery 9. And that became again one of the very important hub. We really love the place in Lajimpat, which is the Nepal's first hotel. When we went to that building, we fell in love with that building, and then we said, okay, we have to do something here. So we created Gallery 9, and Gallery 9 also went about 5 or 6 years, but it kind of done
and it's
really
the same group of people you are now.
It's different group of people, but again, the cream of the cream thinkers, all these together. So it's really great. And then the landlord demolished that house, and after that, okay, that historical building, they built some commercial building now, and we tried to really convince them, but we could not. That's how
the reality is.
Yeah.
But and I'm going back to you want to carry on.
And also we have to accept, nothing is permanent. Only impermanence is the permanent things. And so
true.
But I feel so good about those things. Yeah, thank you.
So I'll go quickly. We're almost at the end of the.
One of the thing I think both Sheelasha and we were talking recently about, how, and we all know, in South Asia and the world as well. So women's history, at the beginning also Sheelasha talked about how women's knowledge has been dismissed and not acknowledged. Who are the producer of the knowledge? It counted the manner of like how hierarchical, white to black, in the Brahmins to non-Brahmins, men to women, and all these things, and women's knowledge was not really taken. And just recently, we were there was one article written about that. It's kind of like in Nepali, but it's about artivism, how artists resist resistance and kind of thing. And in that article, the feminist perspective is not really acknowledged as all. And Sheelasha actually talked with the writers saying like, how can you not mention that? Or talking about vagina or talking about menstruation is not to, why should it be important,
Oh God.
And that kind of thing. So still today, they have witnessed what these women has been doing, still are diminishing or try to diminish.
Not accepted. Yeah.
So how to rewrite the history, how we kind of write her stories is very important. So to bring that, the knowledge as what Sheelasha is doing, that stories of grandmother. My grandmother is still alive, so I'm also trying to bring that. And also the Dambar Kumari, what she said, the block printing, in the larger context, like India China route, the whole Nepal was the center then as a land link country. It used to be land link country. Now the politics, it became landlocked country, and how the influences and the Dambar Kumari, that Saul she was talking about, and those were the block prints that our family, the ancestor actually doing. And I'm working on that now. That is another project I'm doing. So bringing the grandmother's story and also the Dambar Kumari as it is our ancestors' work, and also embroidery happened to be Ranjit Kar who were doing it, so it's kind of that. So it's kind of like we are trying to bring her story as much as we are, and we are trying to, bring as much as the women artists, and how can we create that. And also one more thing I really think really important, it has to be cross-disciplinary, we have to collaborate. Men, whenever they even go for the pee, they would be networking even when they are peeing. But women,
that's a nice way to put this, Ashmina.
And women has so much limited time and space. It's just not possible to do that kind of network, which is very important. And I think this kind of like, it's not only locally, but how we go regionally and globally, it's very important. And this kind of conversation, I think, is very important. So I would like to thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah, I also thank this platform from Anannya, for your knowledge. Anannya Magazine has been, promoting and celebrating women for many, many, many years, and it was a pleasure for me also to, have this program where I could bring female practitioners, and I see so many inspiring stories, and it is a pleasure to focus on female practitioners and looking at real work that tries to make a change. Thank you so much. I look forward for another episode with you when you develop all those works that you just shared about. I'm sure, because I know there is a lot more works of Sheelasha and also yours that we can keep talking on. But I'm sure the audience don't have so much time. We get digital fatigue with programs, but we can come again in another episode. But I quickly want to ask very quick question and quick answers from you, Sheelasha. How is it? How does it feel, or how is the experience to coexist with Art3, with organizations or platforms like Nexus and Lasona? How is the coexistence for you? And then I'll go to obviously Kathmandu Finale at the end. Let's hear that.
What I see in Nepal, Nepali art environment at the moment is that we don't have a governing large institution, which has its own pros and cons. But I want to be optimistic, and I really see it's really beautiful how artists are leading these platforms and how artists are initiating things, and it's and really breaking the stereotype of like, yes, artist is this inside the studio this, but then doing like organizing, creating, like really bringing new ideas,
managing arts.
Yeah, but with such a smooth and grace at the same time, and also with so much of dynamic bringing in. And
exactly.
If we see like the Nepali art environment, it's actually the arts-led initiatives which are changing the dynamics. And they pretty beautifully coexist with each other, and then they support each other, have collaborations with each other, and I see it more at it's. Personally, I think it's more democratic than one large institution governing everything and having gatekeeping everything.
That's really interesting to know.
Within Nepal also, we come from 5 different indigenous communities in Nepal, and we speak 5 different languages, and we don't understand each other actually. Like each other's native languages, and all of our cultural artistic practices are so different. Even now we spend like every day is like a new discovery to each other. But the irony and paradox is that not just in Nepal, not just in South Asia, like all around the world, our own native practices have been like it's like in a such a degradatory manner that as a community ourselves, we have come to the point that we start to have this internal oppression itself. And then it's also difficult that a lot of our indigenous community, the status of woman is actually is nowadays it's going backwards, because women used to enjoy more liberty, more sort of status, like higher status in society. But now like we love to think like things are modernizing, there are like waves of feminism happening, but actually in many instances it's going backwards. And then to reclaim that is another effort in a way.
Yeah.
And then we like to believe that there's like savior, like there's like white savior complex, and then there's this, we like to acknowledge this first wave of feminism, second wave of feminism.
Yeah.
Like there's no wave of feminism for a lot of these indigenous women who are like out there, like like inheriting properties, making decisions where like chief in their societies, but then now it's like going reverse. Same as it's the same similar story is with the image making process. So it's like it's there, all this cosmological knowledge is there when we go there, and then we idealize natural realism. So it's a constant battle in a way.
It will be always.
Yeah, and within Art Tree Nepal, we are an artist collective basically. So we are not an organization.
And how many of you in Art Tree?
We're 5 of us. And I mean, it's like we don't just reflect it in our artwork, but also we reflect those our ancestral practices in also our lifestyle itself. So we share all our resources. We share money. So we collect and redistribute it. So if sometimes someone is not earning anything, then there's a system to support that. And we share like studio spaces, like all materials and everything, and very much egalitarian. No decision is made like singularly. There's always like a collective decision happening, and that's something which happened really organically. And there's no like 5-year strategy or anything. It's something,
but it's a very interesting, very much needed practice that I can see. All the right things are in place there.
Yeah, and I'm this is, and then something which we consciously sort of it's a decolonization process, really. So really going away from the individualism and then reclaiming our collective identities and then sharing it. And like for hundreds of years, we were restricted and we were shamed for being ourselves. And on top of it, like being a woman again in that bodies, and then with female bodies and queer bodies. And then like personally for us, like it's not enough. For us, we have to change this system itself. And then we started from ourselves, and then that's how we function. It has been, we have not expected it, and also it happened very sort of step-by-step process, but it's very effectively working.
Okay, so we're talking for a long time. So I will end the session with by asking you about the recent project that you're busy with, Kathmandu Trinale, and specifically the date. If you could explain us the year that you put in the design, about the year, and let us know about a little bit of Kathmandu Trinale. I'll try to put the logo on the screen. I think I have it in your portfolio.
So Kathmandu Trinale, I and Hitman, we are co-curating, and Cosmin Kostinas, who's director of Parasite, is artistic director, and Siddharth Art Foundation is the organizer. And so Cosmin is also very much into like this idea of the necessity of decolonization, and we were thinking like initially we had like 2020, we had announced Kathmandu Trinale as 2020. The Kathmandu Trinale 2020, but then when we decided, so when we rebranded it with workshops, and then so we decided to go with 2077, and 2077 is Bikram Sambat a year, and it's Nepali officially they sort of follow this. But having said that, we have multiple calendar, and this is the official one. But then in comparison to the Gregorian calendar, it's also the idea of like decolonizing time in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And also because we're talking about past, present, and future. So we are in the year 2077 at the moment. So this also this idea of like
going to the future.
yes. So yeah, we decided to do 77. Initially, our date was December 4th. And because of the current situation, we at like COVID is spreading crazy. So we decided to postpone like many other biennales and festivals.
Yeah.
To be more
Things are totally
responsible.
unpredictable.
Yeah, to 21 next year. Yeah.
And all the best for that. We're looking forward for that. That amazing, sure, amazing things will come. So on the last note, Ashmina and Sheelasha, what will be your last note for, I won't say for the new normality or the new future, because we are already running into the new future that we want to talk about. But what is any last notes to end today's conversation? Hoping to have another conversation someday soon.
Yeah, hoping to have another conversation. I mean, it's very interesting, and also the conversation could be with some more artists, female artists from different continent, or regional. Then how can we share the things? I mean, of course, I have been listening to your program.
Thank you.
Which is really great to have these things. And also, as I think said before, we need to build that network and support system and recreate our history and reclaim the space in every manner, and strengthen, and also use and promote each other in whatever manner we can. And unless we do that, our history would be erased or try to be erased by.
Yeah, we have to share our solidarities to build our own history.
And I really feel that, and collaboration, and to create that learning from each other in horizontal level is very important. Very important. And thank you very much, and I really appreciate this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In last note, Sheelasha. Before Sheelasha, I am just going to show a text. As I'm watching you, I'm so wondering about your introductions. Where can I go to know? At least two of you appear to be from Nepal. So, and then we have a lot of things got to know. Thanks for great sharing. Also wonderful moderator. Congratulations and best wishes. So obviously many people have curiosity, and in this 1 hour or 1.5 hours, it's always impossible to accommodate all the conversation that we want to have, we can have, and deliver all the information. Stay tuned in the page. We bring in more and more practitioners, and of course both the speakers that we have in this session also, you have their Facebook portfolios or Facebook names in the link. You can always get in touch with them, I guess, for your more information and curiosity. Yeah, Sheelasha.
In the subcontinent, I think, like when we see from Nepal's perspective, we have a lot of artistic historical exchanges with Bangladesh, and through artist exchanges, a lot of things, and photographers, a lot of things, and then it's exciting that this is another brick in the wall.
Yes, I mean, there is always an underneath history of everything. When you say there is a lot of exchange, I have some experience where I could not find anyone in like the network. I mean, few people know who might be watching also. Like, I have been asking, like, why I can't connect. I mean, I don't get, Nepali artists and everything. So there is always a parallel history that we have to dig in and make the network wider.
Yeah, but also if you see like current current artistic climate, then artists from South Asia have more exchanges with like America, Europe, Australia, and with each other. So I mean, these sort of discussions and connections are so important, and thank you again for having this. And I think to reflect on current time, it is definitely a strange time, and we're all trying to sort of navigate this difficult situation. Our loved ones are in difficult situation. All these things are happening, and healing is one of the very powerful energy arts can have. And then let's embrace it. Let's even like seemingly mundane thing like sharing, talking can have such a healing effect to ourselves. So let's like in this all this chaotic, let's embrace that positive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's very motivating for me also to bring in more people to talk about it. Thank you so much, Sheelasha. Thank you, Ashmina. Take care and stay connected.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.